Commodores in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 is the Castrol Commodore of Richards Perkins.
Jason out of the car on slicks. It seemed incredibly slippery from here. What was the strategy?
Oh, they were hoping it was going to dry out again, but I was like, you know, it isn't going to dry out, and you know, particularly that last section there with the new surface, it's really slippery. And I was coming in that lap, and as soon as I touched that slippery surface, it aquaplaned and put us off into the fence.
Oh, so the damage to the front of the car is from the fence, not just from scooping gravel?
No, exactly. Yeah, it's from touching the fence as well. So no, it's things that damage the radiators. I think they're going to have a go at trying to fix it, so I'll just get out there and try and scam some points from this one, but we'll see how we go.
All the best.
Cheers.
Well, they're the big losers out of all that raining shenanigans. And at the top of the field, Marcus Ambrose, of course, retains the race lead. Todd Kelly now 24 seconds behind. Radicic in 3rd position. Rick Kelly in 4th position. You can see there. And Stephen Ellery in 5th with his teammate Luke Youlden yet to jump into the seat. And 6th is Jason Richards in car number 44. The interesting thing after all that is that now they're saying the rain might clear. Give them a few minutes and see if they're right. Back after this at Sandown. The story so far at Sandown, a delayed start under threatening skies here. And quite a charge from Marcus Ambrose in pole position. Here is terrible luck. A bingle. It ended up in a stop-go penalty for Garth Tander, but look at that. The two worst victims were the Shell Helix VA Falcons, which were much quicker this weekend than they have been all season. So Dick Johnson would have been absolutely you-know-what. Now, Mark Winterbottom took a massive detour here. Looked a bit like Peter Solberg winning Rally Australia. But no penalty as far as we knew for taking that massive shortcut. The Cat Falcon in all sorts of trouble there. They've had some problems today. A misfire in the engine, Glenn Seaton on that occasion, losing traction. But far worse was to come as rain began to fall on the Sandown Raceway. This was another interesting incident. Brad Jones getting a touch up from David Bernard. And here is another hit and spin. Paul Radicic on Rick Kelly there. But again, as far as we know, there was no penalty for that incident. Now, this is after the rain has fallen and Todd Kelly stayed out on slick tyres while most of the field came in for wets. Looming up behind him was the Pertec Falcon, which in fact leads the race by 21.6 seconds. Marcus Ambrose in front of Todd Kelly, who regained 2nd position after a pit change, but it may have been a lot closer had he come in earlier. That's academic now. Radicic still out in 3rd place as we look at our race leader, and Rick Kelly in 4th. Now there's a bit of breeze about, broken sky, and those Dunlop tyres are ripping water off the racing line. The question is, if it doesn't rain again, what strategies will unfold, Neil?
And the southwestern skyway skyline doesn't look too bad at the moment, but the point that is interesting is that, as we saw earlier in the day, in these slightly greasy conditions, Kelly's got good speed again. He's about a second a lap quicker than Ambrose right at the moment. So although it's still a 20-second margin, he's peeling it out pretty rapidly.
The interesting thing with this Dunlop wet weather tyre, certainly talking to the drivers, and you guys could add something to that, it seems to perform fairly well, like hold up in terms of its compound as the track starts to get dry. It's got a fair degree of tolerance there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Mark. It's certainly, if you were pitting and coming in, you could nearly leave the same set on. You know, they're quite durable if it stays wet, and on a damp particular bit of road like this, they're equal to any sort of wet weather tyre I've ever driven on.
Now, there's been a change in the driving seat at car number 11. Larry Perkins is back in V8 Supercar racing. That means Stephen Richards has done his first stint. He's in pit lane with Darryl Beattie.
Yeah, I'm down here with Stephen Richards. Stephen, you jumped out of the car. A lot of the other drivers have left their driver in, though I guess it was hot. How come you guys made the change?
I think just to open up our strategy a little bit towards the end of the race. Get Larry in the car now. He's sort of fresh. He's probably going to be a little bit closer to the money in the wet than perhaps the dry with his experience. So we're hoping just to gain a little bit of strategy out of it.
How was it initially when that rain came down?
No, it wasn't too bad. As long as you got temperature in the tyres, you've actually got a bit of grip. So, but when it actually started to bucket down on the slicks there, yeah, it was pretty treacherous.
You made up some amazing positions. I think it was like 11 or more positions.
Yeah, no, it was not too bad. It was just it improved the car overnight and the pace of the car pretty well once we got to Cameron McLean. That was about it. did at that stage of the race. So we just got to try and press on and nick a few more.
Thanks, Richo.
Thanks.
That's what Larry's trying to do right at the moment in 11th position. Car number 11, 3-time Sandown 500 winner. The familiar face is back in the cockpit again. 6-time Bathurst champion.
You see the wipers configured just to do the sweep for the driver only, and it's the Richards Longhurst car going up the inside at turn 1.
Jimmy Richards at the wheel at the moment. So 2 enormously experienced drivers here. And you can see these changeable weather conditions. How do you pick this one?
Well, the sun's come out, Marco, but I reckon that's heavier rain, especially over that part of the circuit.
That's looking towards the east, and now we're heading towards the north, and have a look at that.
And the report we have from the chopper is there is more rain on the way. So for these strategists sitting in the back of these garages trying to pick this is looking to the southwest.
And there you can see, just sitting at home, the sort of dilemma that the teams face, because it depends in which direction you look as to what's happening. And the other thing that's curious is that when you look at flags, they're pointing in all directions at any given minute. So the wind is swirling, it's dragging the weather around with it.
Welcome to Melbourne. You spent some time here, obviously, Cromo. That's a shock. I was just noticing Jim Richards has made up a heap of spots. He started alongside me, 26th on the grid, and he actually stalled, I noticed, when I took off, or he hesitated for a while. So he's made up, you know, like 14, 15 places there.
Mark Winterbottom there in 10th spot in the second of the Stone Brothers Fords. So he's hanging around the back of the top tail. Sure, there was a little bit of a wiggle on there over one of the puddles, just showing how treacherous it is. Here comes Richo.
He is on a flyer. Jim Richards has rounded up 2 cars in the last 2 laps, and now he takes over position number 9 from Bradley Jones. So Jim Richards and Tony Longhurst are starting to work their way up through the field. Hasn't Brad Jones had a handful today?
Sure has, and isn't it amazing when you get the situation like this, when the conditions become awful? It's so nice to have 2 very experienced drivers out there. They've been there and done that.
Jim's always had great control in the wet. The cars, both of the team cars, are obviously functioning well in these conditions at the moment, but Jim's one of those guys that's not a throttle slammer, and he just delicately drives the car off his fingertips in these conditions, and he seems to get a lot out of it. Compulsory pad change is one of the hallmarks of this event. They're the caliper pliers. The brake pads have been removed. They use those pliers to squeeze the pistons back in the brake caliper, ready to fit the new full width, full meat brake pad. There are 2 compulsory stops in this race. One is for fuel, the other is for fuel and for brakes. And the compulsory stop for brakes, that window opened at lap 48, and we're now at lap 52, aren't we? 53. So
that's an interesting strategic question too, I guess. Do you go for pads early in the race? Do you go for pads late in the race? So then if the conditions were dry here, your brake pad where it'd be higher, but are you looking for a nice rock hard pedal toward the end of this race in case you had to sprint, like really fight for it?
It's not really an issue. There's not really a wear issue around here either. It's really for everybody to rehearse it for Bathurst where it is an issue. It's just a compulsory element that's put into the race in order for there to be another uncontrolled element, puts another human factor into, and it scrambles the result, which is why it's been factored in. It involves other team members, and really it's in terms of braking performance. Cameron, I don't know what your view is, but I don't think it makes much difference whether you've got full width or semi-worn pads in the car.
No, I don't think so, Neil. Around here, our strategy was to do them early at our first stop, but unfortunately we didn't make it that far.
Yeah, you didn't wear yours much at all.
No, funny that.
All from pit lane with Daryl Beattie. Daryl?
Yeah, well, Matty, I'm standing down in pit lane here, and Marcus Ambrose now looks like he's about to, from here it looks like he's going to take a lap off the Winterbottom car. Then he's got Lowry in front of him and the Longhurst car as well, so he's making up some time on these guys in front of him.
The fastest car on the road at the moment is actually Stephen Ellery. He's down in 5th position. And what happens here is, depending on how each car is set, they all have strengths and weaknesses, Cameron. As you know, the various cars, different spring rates, different anti-roll bar settings, ride heights, a whole bunch of things, roll centres, and each will come into their own in different phases of the race, depending on the level of wet on the road.
Absolutely, and in the warm-up this morning, our car was reasonably pacey, even though we had it quite soft, and we decided to leave it soft just in case this exact thing happened, that it was going to drizzle, so had a fair bit of understeer, if you like, or not so much grip at the front, but we were hoping that if it was wet, we'd have a fair bit of traction at the back of the car, and unfortunately, we didn't make it that far, but some of these guys could also make some changes too. Obviously, during pit stops, they could go in and adjust the shock absorber in a hurry if they want to.
And in these conditions, the driver's looking for a little more feel in the car, so it tends to be a softer setup that is preferred if you can get at it. And as you said, there can be sometimes very abbreviated shock adjustments made during a stop, and perhaps even a roll centre change. You've got to be careful chasing conditions, though, because if it does dry out, you may transform a car that wasn't too bad in dry conditions and turn it into a doggy for the wet.
Absolutely,
or vice versa.
absolutely. I think you have to hedge your bets on a dry setup to start the race. That's what we had at the start line, but you know, keeping in mind, obviously, if you can, some sort of compromise in case this was forecast. So anyone that went a little bit on the soft side will be looking pretty good at the moment.
Impressive performance from Stephen Ellery. If you look at that top 10, this is the only single car team running in that top 10 at the moment. And they've done a tremendous job working with Ian Walburn. Craig Hasted now has come on board this year as exclusive engine supplier, and he's certainly getting good power out of the car. And it seems to be working very well in these tricky conditions. Grant?
With Tony Longhurst, Tony's just getting ready to get in the car, mate. It's been a bit of a up the front, down the back up the front day for you guys.
Yeah, I qualified very poorly in 25th, and then Jimmy screwed the start up. We ended up last, but he's up 8th or 9th now, so but pulling away from Ambrose, so I'm pretty happy about that.
It's fair to say you like these conditions?
No, I'll let Jim stay out the rain. I'll get in when it gets nice and dry. You just got to be ready. You know, you can see there's rain coming, then the sky's clear, so God only knows what's going to happen next.
From here, you're basically going to sit, wait, and see what the track does to see whether or not you're going to jump in?
Well, as soon as it goes dry, I'll hop in. You know, the next time the car goes in, because we're in the area where we can change our pads, so we'll do a full stop. Tyres, pads, driver.
Well done. Good luck.
Thank you. Haven't done much yet.
So I said, well done.
Well, he may be 46 years of age, but Tony Longhurst is still super fit. Very much in the groove for this drive.
I thought we saw the last of the open face helmets when Cito closed his lid finally, but now they're back. Bring some of the older guys back in, and they bring some of the old traditions with them. Tony Longhurst about to gear up and slide in the seat for Jim Richards, who's done an awesome job taking car number 2 up to position number 9. This is Mark Larkham and Jason Bargwanna's car number 10, and Bargs has put it up to 7th at the moment. They started back in 17th position. You could get a suntan in pit lane and get soaked at turn 3. It's that kind of day at the Betta Electrical Sandown 500. We'll take a break on your home of motorsport and be back right after this.
Well, problems here for Team Kiwi. 0-2-1. Smoke pouring from the back of the Black Commodore by Craig Baird and Mark Porter. 2 Kiwi drivers in the all-Kiwi team. But something has gone kaput. I wonder if it's got something to do with that battle damage on the front of the car.
Highly likely, Mark. He's had a fairly big hit. Betta had some really good speed early on in that race, and they've been quite pacey all weekend. I think they've got a stronger engine in that car, which really helps here, and that's a real shame. He needs some points here this weekend.
With all that bonnet dented in, Neil, maybe the car was running hot for a while. Maybe it's cooked itself. Who knows?
You don't need too many things out of place under there for there to be an issue. And just to add insult to injury, we got a wet track with oil on it. And a wet track with oil on it is about the ugliest combination that you can imagine.
Well, you can see the Team Kiwi team working away there. That doesn't look good. Smoke pouring from every angle.
Well, now we know what's happened to the Baird and Porter car. We need to take a break. Back after this.
6 cars on the lead lap here in the Sandown 500, and you're looking at one of them, Rick Kelly, doing a marvellous job in 3rd place, chasing his brother Todd, who in turn has ripped a couple of seconds in the last lap from race leader Marcus Ambrose. This is very much a contest. There is no such thing as a trend out there at the moment in the weather nor the performance of the cars. The pole sitter Ambrose, yes, is in the lead, but Kelly's wet race performance is exceptional, and so too is the man who is the last of those cars on the lead lap, Jimmy Richards, and that's why Marcus